Fast drag. Hey everybody, Anthony, alcoholic, coming to you from Chicago. Thank you, John, but not really. Thank you. Kind of hate you. Uh, so I'm pretty nervous. My sober date is 8/14 of this is 2022, right? Sometimes I have trouble with the dates. So yeah, like John just said, I have just celebrated my 90 days. Today is 92. Um, you know, this is not my first lead. I was actually asked to do my first lead at 44 days, which I was kind of shocked. And, I really struggled with it. I thought it was kind of a drunkalog. The next day, I was nominated to chair a meeting in my home group in Chicago. And this is my home group online. And I really kind of beat myself up. I wanted to be perfect. I felt I had to be this poster boy for AA and do it right, do it perfect, be a one chip wonder. And I really kind of fell into this hole of a block and, just insecurity and, drunk dreams and night sweats. And it was pretty terrible. And as I share my story, you'll probably figure out why. So I am the youngest of three. I have two older sisters, born first generation here in the States to my parents, Filipino background. They came here to the States to have a better life for themselves and their kids. My parents worked hard. They were frugal with their money. They watched every penny and worked really, really hard. And we moved to a pretty nice suburb of Chicago. Um, being a minority, not, kind of coming into this community where there was a lot of old money. I had some insecurities from the get-go, trying to fit in. As a child, I became very competitive, some might say egotistical, aggressive. I wanted to prove myself, be better. And my parents wanted that for me as well. While kids are doing fun things and camps over the summer and things of that nature, I had a schedule. I had math for an hour, science for another hour. I had to write papers on books and turn that into my parents, and had to read 10 books a week. And my parents got me involved in sports, and it was very competitive in that nature as well. So that was kind of where I was at. I was always good, but I never felt I was great at anything. I didn't have a talent or a calling. When it came to school, I was in honors classes and testing. I'd always be in the top 90 something percentile, but never 100. I was very critical of myself. Grew up with a strong family, a lot of women in my life. I remember cooking in the kitchen and being with my family and my grandmother, and I love to cook to this day, and I thank them for that. My parents sponsored family members to come over from the Philippines. My grandma was first and lived with me for the majority of my childhood. As we sponsored more family members, they moved out and got on their own. My grandma moved out, but the male members of my family started to come over, and that's when I was kind of opened up to drinking on that side of the family. My grandfather was an everyday drinker, drinks scotch, Johnny Walker Black. Gave me a bottle of that for my high school graduation. They smoked cigarettes. They did drugs. My uncles started with stealing things from them, sneaking drinks at family parties. Eventually, they taught me to drink and drink with the family and drink responsibly, or at least tried to. High school, the competitiveness was there again. And a big thing for me, a lot of these are external for me, problems. Um, I had friends, a large group of friends, and I was involved in sports and again, everything. But that competitive nature, somebody challenged me to, he said he beat me for class president just to spite him. I ran and I won. And in high school, that it just that spiraled me, being trying to be the best or something. I don't know. But relationships changed. You get into high school and sexuality comes into play. It's not just friends. It's not co-ed sports anymore. There's a division, and it's no longer just friendship. There's attraction, and I had insecurities about me physically, the way I looked, the way I was seen. I was the friend a lot, but not the one that somebody wanted to be with in that way. I found drugs first. Started with weed, alcohol. I was introduced to cocaine my freshman year. I played varsity hockey, and it went from there. You know, weekends, weekdays, sneaking out of the house, um, blacking out, consequences from the get go. Um, Flipped my car my junior year, um, driving on acid while drinking. Um, no consequences though, because I played hockey with the commander son of the police department and also the son of the fire department. So they kind of helped cover things up. Um, did well in school, went to college. College was more of the same. Now I have a new group of friends to impress, and had to be this fun, outgoing guy trying to compensate for the insecurity um, with myself. Had to be the life of the party. Had to go harder, stay up later. My friends called me Pookie. If you ever see New Jack City, you'll get where that name comes from. The old thing. Mikey will try anything. The Life commercial. Anthony will do anything, and I did. I'm not going to go through the drugs because this is an AA meeting, but pretty much done everything. But drinking was always the one that was there. Was able to just kind of stop everything because I always had alcohol as the crutch. Um, Freshman year went by, drank hard, sold drugs. Sophomore year, stopped going to class. It was drinking every day. It was drugging every day. I woke up to people throwing rocks at my window to buy drugs and party with me because they knew I was always down. Um, Started to, I don't know if this is the guilt and shame, but, distancing myself from family, not going home to visit, always wanting to be with friends, not with family. Instead of going home for the summer of sophomore year, I decided I wanted to stay and party. Majority of my friends went home. And, I felt that first loneliness, and I was drinking, coming home to an empty apartment, drinking by myself. Um, had a thing with a girl, didn't work out. She didn't want things that I wanted. That loneliness just got deep, and that was the first time I tried to kill myself. Took some hydrocodone, drank a bunch. It was my sister's graduation weekend from college, University of Illinois in Champaign. She came by my apartment to actually buy some weed from me to celebrate with her friends that they were graduating, and they found me in a bathtub. Woke up in the ER. My family was down there for graduation weekend, and that was the first time I saw my father cry. It was really tough, but I was so emotionally numb at this point already, that I couldn't cry. I came home from college. Um, didn't want to do therapy or anything. Said I'm fine. Found my way into the restaurant business, which if anybody knows works. You know, it's not good for somebody that's got a problem with drinking. Cash every day, don't have to wake up till 4 p.m., which was still a struggle for me. The drugs were heavy, the drinking was heavy, and it was every day. It was every every day. Um, got my first DUI shortly after that. Um, got a good lawyer, minimal consequences. Um, got my second DUI, 25. Um, minimal consequences again. Some outpatient, not even AA court order, just outpatient, which I fought tooth and nail and argued with counselors. I'm like, this is what 20-year-olds do. We drink. This is normal. Everybody I know does this. Little did I know everybody I knew was also an alcoholic. Got arrested for driving on a suspended license shortly after that. I'm like, okay, this ain't gonna work. So I moved to the city. Drinking wasn't the problem. Driving was the problem. So I moved to the city, and I maintained for another 18 years, at least so I thought I did. Um, drank every day, drugged almost every day. Um, thought there were no consequences, but looking back in that 18 years, I had over 20 jobs. You know, I tried to kill myself 3 more times. And I don't know if it was my tolerance was so high, but I could drink a bottle of whiskey and a bottle of Vicodin, just wake up with a bad hangover, puking, bile, and struggling, shaking for days, not go to hospital, just fight it off. Um, Fast forward those 18 years, okay, it's 43 years old for me now. What happened? COVID happened. I lost my job in the restaurant business, and at every waking moment to drink, and I did. My relationship, I lived with my girlfriend, that went down the shitter. Um, she left me, and if you haven't guessed, the other suicides was about a relationship. Um, but I had a child at this point now. Um, he's 7 now, so suicide is kind of off the table. Um, but I drank. I drank, you know, not trying to kill myself, but if it happened, I wouldn't regret it. I stopped eating. I was drinking. I was vomiting blood. I was vomiting blood for continuously for 2 days, and I went to the ER. Esophageal bleeding in my stomach, pancreatitis, herniated diaphragm from vomiting so violently. Was on IV for 5 days. Refused treatment. Said I could do it on my own. For the first time, got counseling though. I got medicine for depression and anxiety. Thankfully, tried to do it on my own. Obviously, I failed. Started drinking again. Got sober again because I needed to go back to work. The unemployment ran out. Was able to maintain for a little over 2 months, and the alcoholic mind said, I can control this. So started to drink again. And what happened was my son lives in Oklahoma with his mother. I had him for the summer. And, you know, obviously I didn't love myself. I didn't know how to love others. I didn't know how to act around my son. So just to even be around him, I had to drink. I had to drink the whole day just to be around my son, to be able to interact with him. And that was hard. It was really, really hard. So I made the decision to put myself into a detox and an inpatient program. I needed help. I couldn't do this on my own. And that saved my life. I had a drink to go into inpatient. When I when I checked in, I was at a 0.36, and I was walking and talking like a normal freaking person. It made me think back in that rehab. I'm like, I'm never going to be that guy at 40s. But I cried, I bawled my eyes out when I got into the hospital. In meetings, I cried, and I don't cry. I don't show emotions. So, pretty intense. Um, I went into inpatient with the idea that I'm gonna work this. I'm gonna work it hard, and I came out of the program, and I was tested early. Um, I went to pick up the meds they prescribed me, and there was something wrong with my insurance, and I thought, I'm fucked. I'm gonna have to pay for this out of pocket, and I just wanted to drink, and I just wanted to dive into it. But I used the tools that I learned in inpatient, and I called people. I called people I was inpatient with. I called family, and I went online. I hit a meeting, and it was this meeting. And this meeting, like other people will say that I come here regularly, it saved my life. I come every day to this meeting. I probably missed 5 days in 92, if that. So what it's like now, I have a sponsor. I am working the steps, and I went to my first meeting in person, and I admitted I was alcoholic. Stood up in front of 100 people, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm at step one. My sponsor told me to read the doctor's opinion, and I had read it already, and I'm like, yeah, that's totally me. That's totally me. And I read it over and over and over, and the more I read it, I looked for every difference I could find to tell me that I'm not an alcoholic. And that's the disease. That's the disease of the mind. Every day, my mind tries to convince me that I'm not an alcoholic, and that I can do this, and I can drink, and I can drink like a normal person. Now, my sponsor also told me that there are 12 steps, and there's also 12 principles. Principle one is honesty. Every day I wake up, drunk dream or not drunk dream, I have to be honest with myself that I'm an alcoholic. It might take me 10 minutes. It might take me an hour, prayer, meditation every morning, and I'm an alcoholic. And that's step one. Step two, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I had a friend in a group simplify it. He's like, you came to a meeting and you came back to that meeting. Whether you've defined your power, the capital P, they're already inferring God, a higher power. If you're coming back, you have come to believe in a higher power. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, just blinking out there for a second. So to me, principle two now, that's hope. You're coming back for a reason. You have hope that this program can save you. And again, every morning I go to one, I go to two, I go to step two, I go to principle two. So I've been honest and I have hope. Three, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. That's a lot of people get hung up here. I've changed my understanding of God several times. I was raised Catholic. Of course, many have that same story. They left the church. I tried to go back to the church. Went to the group of drunks as my God, my higher power. Went to church again. I felt I'm going to give it another try. I'm sitting there in this mass, in this homily, and I'm hearing the pastor speak, and there's a familiarity in the story, and it turns out he's in recovery, and I'm like, this is a God moment. You know, I hadn't been to church for a few weeks, and I decided I'm going to give it a try. And there's this pastor that's in recovery speaking directly to me. So your understanding of God will change, and I'm sure mine will grow and change as I change and grow with this program. But principle 3 is faith. As long as you have faith, doesn't matter if it changes. So you're at step 3 now. Step 3, I've been looking at the step 3 prayer. It's not something we do in this group, but I'm going to read it to finish it up. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me, to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. The bondage of self for me is really, really big. You know, I've beat myself up for 30 years, drinking and drugging, and freeing myself of the bondage of self is doing service. You know, after that first lead, I turned down 3 speaker because I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I could give anything back to anybody yet. And now I have 3 leads this week. So I'm going to end with that. I hope you guys got something out of it. I appreciate it. I like letting me be of service. I love you all.